Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another amazing interview all about empowered women. And the project, which is always a mouthful, is ISOARe Empowered Women Positive Impact Project. So today I have with me Belinda Tui. So Belinda, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell people really whatever you're happy to share.
So I've been in the disability sector for the last 30 years and probably spent the last 25, 27 years as a manager throughout different parts of government and agencies. I currently run Including You, which we've been around for 13 years with my husband Dominic as well. And we started off with one service user, and Dominic and myself to, 11 years later, when I've got 20 support coordinators, about 70 staff for direct supports. We're open in Queensland for support coordination and Canberra as well. And we also opened up an allied health area with an allied health manager and another OT, and we also have short-term respite. But on the side of that, I also do a lot of work in talking and educating about fraud within the NDIS. And I guess I'm a bit of a whistleblower, I guess that they like to call it. But I have those really difficult conversations and will report and do what I need to do, and probably be fearless where other people are a little bit more reserved and scared to actually sort of talk about what we do and what's going on within the NDIS and the fraud that we're seeing all over. So, and I guess the other part of that too is I'm a mum of two teenage girls, and also happy to share that along with that is, dyslexia and, most likely in getting a diagnosis of ADHD later in life. I'm 52, and that's been a bit of a surprise, funny enough. That's sort of who I am in that sort of professional and personal setting as well.
Thank you for sharing all that. And we will have a conversation, not on here, at some point though, about that fraud. I think that's a really it is something I have also reported businesses. Because I'm very down the line with that. If you're doing the wrong thing, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
You're doing the wrong thing.
That's right.
I have said to some on posts on social media by the politicians, and I've said, fraud is not unregistered providers. Fraud is actually registered providers a lot of the time. If you go back through the stats, we're not saying that we're not tainting everybody with the same brush.
No,
we are saying that if you think registration is going to solve your fraud problem, go and talk to the people that actually understand that a little bit more, because it's not necessarily the solution. But that's a conversation for another day, which we will definitely come back to. Yes. So I have included Belinda in my book, Empowered Woman, coming out on the 9th of May. Well, the e-version will be available then. The paperback version will come out a little bit later, and I do hope to have an in-person celebration around that as well. And one of the reasons I included you in the book, obviously with your permission, was because of your authenticity and the fact that you call a spade. And whilst some people might be, as you touched on, uncomfortable to talk about certain things or have certain conversations, I think one of the things that I really admire about you is that you will have that tough conversation. And I know that you have copped a bit from people that we both know over you taking action. But if we don't take action and we don't speak up in whatever it is, not just the disability sector, but any aspect of our life, then people will walk all over it. So that's a huge part of why I chose you to be one of the 12. It's that you do care. And the other thing I've noticed is that in all the 12 people the 12 women that I chose with the book, and that very rarely do any of them say, look at me, I'm amazing. Like
Mm.
that personality profile is fine. Like you can be that, but
Yeah.
it's about like there's this I don't want to say quiet, because at the time we know we're not all quiet, but it's
Mm.
it's this way of just getting on with it and knowing
Yeah.
that there's going to be challenges, but also to keep going. And that, to me, I've
Mm.
seen that in you. I've
Mm.
watched you for some time, even before we spoke, like things like that. I think I'd
Yeah.
connected with some of your team before. I
Yes.
do remember the event that we were at where it was like, oh, you're Jackie Grant. Like,
That's right.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And I had that quite a few times that day, like, because that was the whole day event.
Yeah.
And I wasn't feeling 100%, but then, like, someone come up, are you Jackie Grant? And I'm like, oh, let me check the name tag. Like,
It's because we see each other so much on LinkedIn that to
yes,
meet the person in person, it's a bit like, oh, so that's who you are, you know?
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
had someone, because I haven't been to or done a lot of events myself for like 18 months. And
Yeah.
I went to an event earlier this year, and someone came up to me because my hair was a little bit wavier. And she goes, have you
Yeah.
always had wavy curly hair? And I went, yes. Like, oh, okay. I didn't quite recognize you at first. So it's kind of
Yes.
funny. But
Yeah.
yeah, one of the things too, Belinda, before I get into the
Mm.
next part that just come to me was that I've noticed too, when a lot of women have gone through abuse or have spoken up, like used their
Mm.
voice and spoken up for the right reasons, that they've actually copped a lot more slack from other women and at times
Mm.
support from men. Have you ever noticed
Mm.
that?
Yeah, because we're not very nice to each other, women, at
Yes.
times. We really you know, there's a lot to be said about how the sisterhood works and how we should behave, or, you know, I've had a lot of people ask me, aren't you scared? Aren't you
Mm,
scared of repercussions from the agencies that you're
mm,
reporting? And my answer to that is no, because
mm,
you know, this is not just, you know, people. There's that aren't, are you scared? And it's
mm,
not. I wouldn't call it. I'm not scared. I have this absolute belief that we have to report people who are doing the wrong thing, but
mm,
also to protect the people that we serve. And that's
yeah,
never moving. That never changes.
mm,
Um, I think that other females,
mm,
I don't know, we have to work a lot harder, and we have to work a lot more harder than men do.
mm,
We need to we question ourselves constantly about, should I do this? Should I not do this? What's that
mm,
going to look like? What's it not going to look like? Am I going to offend somebody? Am I not going to? So before you even do anything, you're going through a million different scenarios. And I try and cut past that and just, you know, I say it all the time, be curious and be brave.
mm,
And
mm,
being
mm,
brave is around that you can't predict the future. You
mm,
can't go, oh, they're going to come for me or what have you. I run my business very legitimately with ethics. I'm not out there saying to people, you should do it this way because that's the way I'm doing it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is work within the
mm,
NDIS guidelines and protect those that we serve. It's pretty friggin' easy.
mm, mm,
And to do the right things. So that messaging for me never changes. But
mm,
we've got a lot of work to do around the sisterhood and around how we should be supporting one another
mm,
as entrepreneurs. That's why I joined the Leading Ladies group that I'm in with
mm,
Nicole Doherty and Kim from T&K and Sarah from
mm.
the support worker and Top Cat, because we
Yeah.
were sick of it. We were sick of, we talk about it all the time when we see each other, and when we talk about what the struggles are, but are we bringing it together to be celebrated with all women? And that's what the
Mm,
first Leading Ladies workshop and lunch was about, was really
mm,
solidifying that, because we can talk about it, but I've also got to walk the walk and talk the talk.
mm,
So
mm,
that was quite empowering and very daunting, but
mm.
certainly the results of that in that room was really felt
Yeah.
and congratulated afterwards and said, you know, I cried with you. And I just think we've got to do more of that. We've got to do
Mm,
more of the sharing and caring, and that as females we do have many more hoops to jump than men.
mm.
And, you're either labelled aggressive or too assertive. And you know what? I'm all of those, all of those. And I'm also a good leader, and I've got compassion, and I'm making sure the people we serve are taken care of, not just for now, but future generations. It's not this one-stop shop. It's about all of that, Jackie. And I think that we still have a way to go in supporting each other as women in leadership, or just women in general, really. Yeah.
Which is kind of how the project came about. Like, so the book was about empowering women, and a lot of work I do is about empowering people as well. Like, I'm about to launch my Empowered Life membership, which is all audios. So because we're on the go, and it's not just for women, and it's for men as well, and it's got certain things that are specific to women, and then a few more things that are specific to men, and then business owners, and because I'm qualified as a personal trainer and weight management practitioner, as well as all the other strings to my bow. I can actually bring the whole thing to the person, and through that membership. And one of the things, as I've been working on the marketing of it, is stay as long as there's value. If there's no value, then leave. That's fine. So I'm looking forward to. I'll get the book out first, and then we'll do. But okay, I love all of those shares. So thank you so much. And Nicole has reached out as well. So we've had the school holidays. Her and I have for the last probably 18 months have kept missing each other. So I'm sure that the right time will come.
Yeah, of course.
So, as part of the Empowered Women Project and doing these interviews, I have liked to get people to do the quiz, and I asked you to do the business one. So those of you that are listening, there's two quizzes. I saw business personality profile, and I saw individual personality profile. So 2 questions in relation to that. 1, how did you find the quiz? And 2, do you remember your results? And was it in alignment with you, or did you go, it's not me? Like, just share.
The quiz was fine. Like when I started, then I had to stop and come back to it. But I found it very easy, and it was very easy for me to actually resonate with what I felt within the questions, and just recognizing if there was if I'm drawn to a particular one of those questions, that's the answer. I came out as the stabilizer, which I found fascinating. I found fascinating. And I didn't realize that I did that. Like there was some to the stabilizing, making sure that everyone's okay, and wanting to make sure that if there's changes that people are that people are okay with that. And I'm trying to make sure everyone feels safe and included and appreciated. And I was a bit taken aback, because sometimes I think me being brave doesn't align with stabilizing, but in actual fact it truly does, because I want everybody to be okay with what we're changing or what we're doing. And if we need to pivot, we pivot. But I'm also allowed to be to have the imagination and to have the forward thinking and to be strategic. You don't just have to be a stabilizer. And I realized for my brain, I need to have a few things going on in how I am as a leader and as a manager. So part of that is the stabilizer. And I actually understood myself better again when I saw that, and I was reading. I go, that's actually what I do. I'm so about making sure those in the company, the people we serve, and our staff are at baseline. They're settled, because when they're not settled, that's when things can actually happen that, mistakes, for instance, could happen, or people aren't feeling supported, which can become a bigger issue. So I certainly resonated after posting all of that part of me is a stabilizer. And I now realise that people look to me as that leader to be able to settle them, to be able to settle the business or the company or the office. And these changes that came up with the NDIS tomorrow to settle everybody, I'm spending some time with my team going through what those changes mean, because I need them at baseline as much as possible, because we're going to have families and service users asking us questions about that. We can't be alarmist. We need to have all the information. If your leader is steady and steadfast in what's coming, well, then you follow that lead. But they need to see that and they need to hear that. And that's part of stabilising. So, yes, Jackie, I did learn something about myself. It was lovely, actually. Yeah.
I'm just going to be really vulnerable here. I'm a little bit emotional. Hearing all of that, because this has been years in the making, in the sense of I've worked, like, as a coach, I have used it, but every time I ask somebody for their feedback, because for those watching, if you think that I knew her results, but I did not, I'm just hearing her feedback Belinda's feedback for the first time. So I'm sitting here going, oh, okay. That's good. That's what we want. That's what we want.
It really landed.
Oh, good. Yeah, because somebody said to me, you're giving away too much information in the results. And I said, oh, if you only saw what is contained in that profile that I have, like, I have my notebook here, but it's almost one notebook per profile, and there's 5 of them. So there is a lot, which leads me into the next bit, because, and I love that you shared that if your leader has that levelness and that we'll use stabilizer, that stabilizing energy, then that can go and help alleviate a lot of uncertainty. It can help to alleviate a lot of worry, because I can't speak for you, but I and Sarah and I did our video last night, so we're going to be sharing that today as well. But the thing that Sarah and I talked about, and I'd love your thoughts on it, is that the approach that I'm sharing with people is be aware that this is a plan.
Yeah.
It could come in, it might not. Like, so, okay, what does this mean for the business? What does this mean for the participants? What does this mean for the staff? And I love that you're getting the team together to say, right, guys, this is what we know. Yes.
And this is what I'm, for me and Dom, we follow things very, very closely. I have people who are, who have worked in the NDIS and I, speak to. There's being able to pivot your business, and everyone talks about, support coordination is going to go. Is it? Is it going to go? You know what I mean? We don't know, but my gut feeling says there's going to be some level of something similar to support coordination. What does that look like?
Yeah,
will
and
that come to fruition?
It could just be it sits outside of the plan, right?
Correct. They're coming after, the plan manager side of things as well, which I don't necessarily think is great either. But, they've got to cast some blame somewhere. So, that's where it's sort of coming from. I struggle with what they've talked about, especially around cutting service users' plans when we've got billions of dollars being wasted on fraud. That the punishment for that is that people with a disability are going to have plans hacked because us as a government and as an institution haven't managed that properly. And I find that just abhorrent.
Yep. And with that, we've been seeing some plans slashed by, a third to 50% in the last 2 years as well. And so if I was, and I'm not speaking for all participants, but I'm just walking in their shoes just for a moment. If I've just had my plan slashed by 1/3 and I've had to go, now I can't have all the support to get out of bed, or I can't have whatever it is that I need to actually live a life that other people take for granted. Like, we're not talking about an extraordinary life. We're talking about a day-to-day basic human needs. That's all we're talking about. And so I would be sitting there listening to this going, they're going to cut social and community back quite a lot. And you go, yeah, but I have anxiety. I don't want to be out with a whole group. What does that mean for me? Does that mean I won't leave the house? Like, so many different things. And we know that our mutual friend Mel speaks to this really well, is that that re-traumatization can come just with these announcements.
Correct.
So
It creates a lot of anxiety. It comes with a lot of anxiety. But what we can say is that this is something in the future. It's not happening right now, even though we are seeing plans already being cut. And support coordination being put in for 6 months only over a 5-year plan or what have you. You have to make those decisions and assist that service user how to move forward.
Yeah.
And what they need to be doing. And I have to say it's certainly made me stop and think about what we're putting in change of circumstances for. Do we really need to do, is that really, really justifiable? And I think that part of us speaking with the team is that I'm going to be asking those questions, because we never moved away from functional capacity and how somebody can function in their life. That's never been removed. And the diagnosis is one thing, but the rest of the evidence is around the functional capacity assessments that are done. I guess my biggest concern is that they're talking about having people within the agency doing functional capacity assessments, or whatever that might look like, which is bizarre to me, considering we have people who are allied health professionals who go to uni, get the qualification. Their reports weigh so much in when it comes to certain things within the NDIS and SDA applications and SIL and what have you. But we're going to get untrained people to do a functional capacity assessment, not just a diagnosis. And there's some of the things that worry me about that. And maybe because now we have allied health within our company, and I'm being taught and already know some are being taught by our allied health manager what that looks like. The greater understanding of that is pretty profound. So there's some really interesting things and concerning things that are going on, but I think that we've got to keep the hysteria contained and wait and see, because it's only 2023 that we were told navigators were going to take over. Support coordination, local area coordination and plan management would be the one job. It's 2026, 3 years later, and that hasn't even come up. It's not even...
And the discussion around the mandatory registration that the task force then put out the tiered. I remember breaking down that tiered registration pathway, which in it made a lot of sense actually, because not everyone would need an audit, so on. And now with these announcements last Wednesday, the minister's saying, that personal care is now high risk. Well, that then changes that entire scope of registration.
That's right.
And yes, my phone has been running hot, so it was quite there for a little bit, but now it's running hot. And every time someone rings me up and says, Jackie, I want to become registered, the first thing I ask them is why?
Yes.
I know that sounds bizarre, but it's kind of like, why? I want to know why. Well, because I want to get in early. Okay, yep. Do you realise that we've been having this discussion since 2023? I'm not saying don't do it. I just want to have some perspective. I want to give you things to think about. So yes.
And I think even the spin on the everyone being registered, I don't see that so much for fraud. I actually see that much for the unregistered, because there's so many unregistered. They're trying to move away from the unregistered and leave the registered there that are substantive and have been there. I don't necessarily think it's got to do with the fraud. I do not think they realise that we would have an influx of unregistered providers coming in. Some people don't even understand the difference. I understand the difference because I've got the privilege of paying $12,000 an audit for my own business.
The privilege. I like the way you painted that as a positive.
Yes. Well, I can't complain because we do things legitimately, and but I also learn a lot from that's another story altogether. I'm learning a lot from the auditors as well. But I think that's really important that we do make sure everyone's getting the right message, but also not to run off and change anything. And all these plans have been going on for a very long time. I would love to see something come out, at least one thing come out of the discussions. And you're right, the hysteria that people feel, and they're concerned and they want to get registered, and they think I really don't believe that they just think the registration is to stop fraud, because as we know, registered or unregistered, same. Yeah.
I personally think, and it's for those watching, this is just my personal opinion, is that they don't want as many providers.
Correct.
And
that's why.
Yep, and there's a lot of independents that don't even have a service agreement. You know, I can do whatever I want. I'm independent. And I'm like, right, well, like, you know, I actually have more freedom as a coach from a governance perspective. I have my ethics though as well. Than a sole trader in the NDIS, because I'm not getting paid directly with federal funding. Right? Like indirectly I might be, because if you came to me as a client and you know, as a business coach, and you're, you know, that's a business expense, so technically there's that roundabout way. And I'm just being pedantic for those that like to pick at little things, but I think that it is, well, you and I both know the fastest way to commit fraud is get registered. Just putting it out there. But if anyone wants to come and have that discussion with me, I'm really open to it, because you know, I think I've reported in 5 years, I've reported 8 businesses, and 6 of those were registered, and the other 2 weren't. So I'm like you, it's that philosophy of see something, say something.
Completely.
Yeah, but also have your evidence. Hey,
I said I don't know how they don't, because that's followed my whole career from beginning as a support worker back, you know, my first job to where we are now. I don't understand what the confusion is. If it's not right, report it.
I think you touched on it earlier in the video, is that it's that fear. And I have been in a different workspace, and I've reported what I felt was wrong, and I got bullied and bullied and bullied until I left. You know, and the bullying took its toll on me, and it was like every time I turned around, and then they started going to management about me, and I wasn't doing anything. I got to the point where I was like doing my job and documenting every single step and timelines and everything, because you know, I spoke up once on one thing, and I said, here's my evidence and I have concerns. I'm not saying go sack the person. I didn't get into the HR part, but I was just like, this is not right. And so I feel like there is this mentality of, oh, I'm staying out of it, it's none of my business. But okay, well, you've got to live with that.
Correct.
But, correct. It's a topic we could talk to all day. But
all day.
Yes, all day, every day. Okay, well, just going to come back to the quiz. So stabilizer, you're going, yes, I learnt this about me, and now I'm going to use this with my team.
Yes.
So that brings me to one of the things. So the quiz is kind of like that introduction, and then one of the other things I do with people is I work with them on their unique success code, which is, it's like a blueprint, and it teaches you how you're wired for success, and how you're wired. And part of having success is knowing how you face challenges, your vulnerabilities, all of that. So in a couple of weeks, our mutual friend Mel and I are putting on a very, I call it an exclusive event, because we're only going to have 8 people come with Mel and I, and it's called Embracing Change with Certainty in an Uncertain Time, and we are focusing on NDIS businesses for this reason. So, you know, would love to see you there, and if you choose to come, you're going to do the quiz again, which will be really interesting. I'm going to find that interesting, and then you're going to walk out of there with your unique success code.
Love it.
Yes. And obviously there's time to network, because that's important.
Yeah, of course. I will definitely be coming to that. Definitely. I'm very keen.
Be awesome. Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I'm keen to see who grabs a ticket that we don't already know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'll be, you know, we might meet a new face. But
Right.
Okay. So and speaking of how we're wired for success, often how we face success and challenges, and especially as women, starts off in our childhood. And we all have a unique childhood experience, and you know, two people can go through the same experience in their childhood and come out completely different.
Yes.
So thinking back to your childhood and only sharing what you're comfortable with, what would you say to the younger Belinda? And you can pick any age.
Oh, wow. You know, I would say the first thing I would say to her, yes, you are different. Because I grew up thinking that I was different and couldn't understand why everybody else was getting such good marks in primary school. I understood it, but I wasn't great at tests, or my writing wasn't the best. And I spent the next 30 years going to do different therapies, exploring different areas. And, you know, how did I get this drive to just keep pushing through? Because my childhood was, you know, there was absolute trauma in that. But I knew very, very early on that I was the only one was going to make a difference. And I'm talking about 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
That I knew something wasn't right. And I couldn't, I'd be watching going, I'm not dumb. You know what I mean? But why am I not getting that? Why am I deep diving into things and then missing a whole hour of class because I've been doing something else, or deep diving into a section of it? So I always felt that I just had to keep going. And that has served me throughout my life. That whatever happens, you have to keep going. And I think, you know, having navigated that, I would say to my younger self, one, you are right. You are different. But it's about what you do with that difference, and that you're not a freak. You're not a walking mess. In actual fact, you know, have dyslexia and ADHD. And, you know, also too, having to work through lots of childhood trauma as an adult.
Yeah.
And that you stay true to the path. You're going to be knocked and kicked and, you know, challenged, and you're going to have heartbreak, and then you're going to have great success and matching with someone who ends up being your partner, and then your business partner, spending a lot of time with them, and then raising children as well, which I never ever thought that I would do either growing up. And I would say that to that little girl, just keep going with it. You are on par. Do what you love.
Yeah.
Because you get bored easy.
Yeah.
Find a passion. If it wasn't disability, it would have been something else. It just happened to be disability that I was in. I always say if I didn't get into the disability field, I would have been working overseas. I don't know, for UNICEF or something like that within the human rights sort of field.
Yeah.
You just have faith in yourself. And that internal dialogue, that's the other thing. Jesus, the internal dialogue. The internal dialogue isn't always right. And it's just the story that's playing and what you're adding to it, and that you're okay. Just watch it. You don't have to be in it, but you can observe and watch it. But you are perfect the way that you are. You
Beautiful.
are. Just are. And be brave and be cautious and be curious. Be kind, because I haven't always been kind. Be kind. And give people grace. That's my newest one at the moment, about giving people grace. Because life is hard. This business is really hard. And we're not always going to be on point or polite. Give people grace.
Yeah.
That's what I would also say to my younger self. And probably don't obsess as much. Don't be, that's what go hands in hand with ADHD though. Yes.
Yeah. And
that's what I would say to myself. That would be what I would say to my younger self. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love all the encouragement and all that you know, and feeding back to that younger version of you what you've learnt along the way, and that, you know, the you are okay. Like, you're different. Yeah. You're right. Well done. Go you. You are different. And, you know, missing part of class because you've dived deep into something. But doing that has taught you to have that resilience now.
Correct. I was actually, one of the biggest things that sort of, you know, happened to me that I was really chuffed with was that I was asked to go back to my high school last year. to give a speech to the year 11 and 12s. And they wanted somebody who was not academic. And I'm like, I'm so far from academic. Like, I'm so far from it. I just got through high school. I went, got my qualifications. And I got quite a few because I felt like if I had a number of qualifications that I couldn't be dumb and I couldn't be stupid. But I went back to the high school and I spoke to the year 11s and 12s and gave them my story and how, I went to an all-girls school and I lived in Broadmeadows. I lived in a really tough part of Broady, and my mum, the one good thing was that she sent me to that school and kept pressuring the school to take me because outside of the boundary. And I found out I was going there 2 weeks. 2 days before school started for year 7. And that school provided me safety 5 days a week. From 9 to 3, I could relax. I could just be there and I was safe. And I don't know if people understand that. I don't know if they understand what school can actually do. And so when I'm giving this speech to these kids, in year 11 and year 12 about how tough it can be, but keep going and don't always believe that inner chatter of yourself that you're shit and you're bad and you're this and that, because it's just inner chatter. And I had students coming up to me afterwards saying to me, oh, my God, thank you. I don't have to be the top of the class. I go, you do not have to be the top of the class. I'm a director. I've my own business and, and with, learning challenges and what have you doesn't mean that you have to be valued just because of the degree you've got. You've got to be a good person as well. And these young ladies were coming up to me, speaking to me afterwards, and I was astounded at how impactful I was. And the lady who organised the teacher said, do you know, you're the first one we've had that hasn't talked about academics, and you've just been really truthful and honest and raw, and that's what these girls need. And I left there on a high for days because I was just like, oh, my God, I've got to go back. So that was one of my bucket lists. I was able to tick that off. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah,
and thank you for making a difference in the lives of those young women.
Absolutely. And I was reading the speech to my 2 daughters who are going, oh, my God, you are so embarrassing. Don't tell them that. Don't speak about this. They were giving me more anxiety about my speech than anything. Like, oh, that is so boring. Don't say that. But, I'm raising pretty impressive young girls, who also go to a girls' school. I'm adamant that is the best place for them to learn. And my oldest also dyslexia, dysgraphia, whatever else that's going on. So she also is, in that sort of boat of navigating, but it's so much easier with a mum who understands.
Oh,
I didn't
100%.
that, but both girls have got that. A mum who understands. And we laugh about this, when I can't spell something or I've misinterpreted something. They're just in hysterics. They just think it's the best. But in saying that, though, that was probably one of my I felt very honoured to return as somebody who just scraped through for VC. And I mean just scraped through, just to pass. So,
you did better than me.
Oh, well, I can tell you now, it was really a fluke that I even passed that.
I didn't pass year 12 by the time I got there. And that's why I asked that question. It's because with what you know now, and you go back to that time, it was like, okay, well, maybe I could have pulled my socks up a bit, or maybe I did do the best I could with what I have.
Correct.
And how much of the baggage do I want to carry of the past with me? Because after a while, like in Empowered Woman, I talk about weight as an invisible battle, because we do go into body as well, but that's a different chapter. But, we can carry all of this baggage. And I remember a psychologist saying to me one day, they said, when are you ready to put down the bags? And I looked at them and went, what are you talking about? Because I have I have autism as well as ADHD. So I'm like, I carried my handbag. What are you talking about? She lied. And appropriately though. And she said, you are carrying all, so you gave yourself a bag that you're not worthy. You gave yourself a bag that you're disappointed. You gave yourself this bag and that bag. And she said, but technically you didn't give yourself those bags. And I went, okay, now I'm really confused. And she said, someone else gave you those bags and you chose to pick them up and keep carrying them. So when are you ready to put them down?
Yes.
And maybe pick up a new bag that is lighter and prettier and is saying, well, you are amazing, or it's okay to be you, whatever you want that bag to be.
Correct.
Very
true.
So important.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Okay. This is awesome. So, one of the biggest things that I found in, and actually I just missed you at this event. So there was the event that was on a few weeks ago, and it was very rainy, wet day, and Mel had her table there, and they were doing
I went in the morning. Yes.
Yeah. I had you. You must have been driving out of the car park as I drove in, because like Mel said, "Oh, you've just missed Belinda," and I went, "Where?" And she goes, "No, she's literally just."
I did. I was in an hour. Yes.
So, and I dropped off because you're getting a T-shirt as well. It'll be a round neck. And I dropped off a couple of things to Mel, and then Mel started telling me about some of the other people that were there, because I just went to support Mel. I didn't even research the event properly. I just went. And I got to do on-the-spot interviews with two amazing people that are making such a positive difference. One of them I'm going to get back in touch with, because from the sales of the ebook on the 9th, once I've cleared all my expenses, from the profit we're going to give a percentage to Keely's cause, and we're going to give a percentage to this other charity that is doing a great job. And I spoke to not Keely but Sharon about this, and I said, it's not like, unless we sell 1 million books, it's not going to be a lot of money. And she goes, Jackie, if you donate $5, we'll go, thank you very much. Like she said, anything, because they don't get the funding. So I'm finding that, giving people a voice, like especially from an empowerment perspective. When I went and asked one of the businesses, Georgie from Tanya's house, I said, do you mind if we do, like I heard a story, I said, do you mind if we do this? This is a project we're doing. She goes, oh, okay. And she kind of took a bit of a deep breath, and we did the video. It was a lot shorter than this because I was mindful of the day. And she messaged me later. I said, Georgie, here it is. It's here. And she messaged me. She said, I'm now starting to do videos to get the message out. And that little bit of just, she said, you gave me the confidence. Yeah. And I said, the one thing I kept saying to her is, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want the message out there.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because if we strive for perfection, we're never going to do anything.
No, we're not.
No. Well, it's been great chatting with you, Belinda. I think if we could leave the listeners with one piece of empowerment, or one thing that we could maybe work on as women, just anything that you feel that the listeners, and we will be getting in touch with men that support the women as well at some point. Is that, if there's one final message you could give the people watching and listening, what might that be?
Look, I honestly say being brave and doing it anyway. And you're right, it does not have to be perfect. I'm not a perfectionist by any shape or form. But I think sometimes we get stuck with, we're brave, but what does that next step look like? And I think that pushing through the discomfort and the chatter, and really having people around you who back you and actually like just do it, and be able to know that they're actually looking out for your best interest and are the encouragement, and the trust that you have in that person. And you know what else? It doesn't have to look any particular way. You might fail the first, second, or third time. Go back the fourth, because that fourth time you've learned. And I think that's the other thing as well, that if you're wanting to do something and you fail it at the first time, you don't just stop. you actually keep going until it actually works out. And I've probably had the luxury in my business because I started very early on that I've made mistakes, but we were able to fix it. But we wouldn't be where we are if I hadn't had those mistakes or failures happen. And I do think it's people get very caught up in how it's got to look. There's a lot more emphasis via social media on things. People can be embarrassed a lot easier. It doesn't look a particular way. Really, just do what you want to do and make sure it's true and ethical to who you are. Be brave with it and make sure you have some solid people around you who respect you, but you also trust them, because that's really, really important to be able to trust others for the feedback. Yeah,
love it.
And laugh at yourself. Remember to laugh. Self-depreciation, I'll tell you this, and my staff know this, it's really important too. You know, people see directors and managers of these people with all their life put together, and they're coming in and they're so, you know, serious. I cut through all of that. I'm constantly falling over, doing embarrassing things. And I share that because I'm saying to the whole other, you know, my staff and my friends and whatever, that I'm not perfect. And if I can't laugh at myself, then I've got no right laughing at others, you know, also, or laughing together. And I think that's also something that I'm probably known for, is that I can self-depreciate, but I also like to have a laugh, and I can be pretty funny also. And I think don't lose your sense of humour, because some days that's all you've got left after 5 is your sense of humour. Yeah.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Well, Belinda, it's been amazing having you here. I always love having conversations with you.
Me with you too, Jackie. And thank you for paying me in the book. I'm very humbled that I'm featuring in that. And I can't wait for that event on the 13th to learn more about.
With Al. No.
I'm going to get off this now and go straight and get my ticket because that was great. I look forward to it very much.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Belinda.
Thanks.